This is also willow bark from the little sticks that I peel. These are from the fat ones, so I don't waste it. And even the bark that I don't, when I'm collecting willow, the bark that I don't use to make baskets from, it might get torn or it's kind of nasty. I put it in a bucket, cover it with water, and just so happens to be the time that I'm transplanting little seedlings and sprouts and things. And about once a week I give them each a cup of the willow water because it has a natural rooting hormone that's in the water. That will, same thing like you get from the root tone or whatever that is. Yeah, willow water works really good. But then there's cherry bark. These are little folded cherry bark baskets. And this is the outer bark of a cherry. And if you look down here, this kind of funny one is inner bark. Cherry has two barks. One on the outside that grows around this way. One grows up and down on the inside. That's why it makes it so impossible to split cherry. Makes it really hard. Let's see what else is down there. Oh, and that one, oddly enough, and I say, this one's maple bark, just from a regular old maple tree. Blew down, peeled the bark off. So I'm willing to try just about anything. In fact, last 2 summers ago, we had a new roof put on our house, and there was a big laurel bush on the side of the house, and my husband, the chainsaw, and cut it down, and he's dragging it to the burn pile, and I thought, golly, that kind of is cool looking bark. So I peeled it, and I made these 2 baskets from laurel bark. You know, English laurel that is like makes hedges and stuff. So my theory is bring it home, try it. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Goes in the compost or the burn pile or whatever. So I experiment with lots of things. And when I teach, what I like people to understand is I want them to go away with the technique of weaving. Not necessarily the material. Not everybody has access to spruce roots or cedar roots or some of the other things that I use. But if you learn the method, it can be interpreted in 1,000 different ways, and you truly are only limited by your imagination. This is cattail. Again, another good for beginner project because cattail collected at the end of summer, lay it out, dry it, and a nice day like today, they'll dry in about 2 weeks. And then you bring them in and you're good to go. Cattail you can use as soon as it's dry. It's not one of those ones that take a long time to dry. Jonquus, another material that you can still probably collect jonquus. If you notice little black spots on it, then don't take it, but probably still it's good. And I call it jonquus, but it's that clumps of dark green spiky grass with the little tassels at the top. It's a hollow rush. Nothing eats it. Deer don't eat it. Cows don't eat it. You'll go by a pasture and you'll see big clumps of stuff. Grass is ate down and nobody's ate that. Well, this is jonquus. Now, it does need to sit for a year. And it's not so much with that a drying process, but a seasoning process. It gains a tensile strength over that length of time. After about 3 months, it'll go, oh, it looks dry. It may be dry, but it's not ready to use. But cattail is a good one to start with if you just want to fool around and practice things with it. Today we're going to do a little project with cattail, a very little one because they gave me a half an hour. But I'm positive you all can do it because my kindergartners do it. So, yeah, we'll be able to do that. This is an example of willow. This is willow that was collected in the spring and peeled. This is willow that was collected in the dead of winter. And you collect it if you're going to leave the bark on. This big one down here is bark on willow. It was probably January, I think, when I collected it. And that reasoning is the same reason I pick it in the spring when the sap is up, so the bark comes off. In the winter, the sap is down, and this bark is hugging on like nobody's business. You could barely scrape it off with a knife. I will give you one hint if you're going to collect bark on willow. Go out in the summer, and I tie little pieces of colored yarn at the base, because once the leaves fall off everything, in the winter, it's hard to tell whether it's willow or buckbrush or who knows what it is. And I've spent time collecting the wrong thing. So while the leaves are on and I can tell what it looks like, I tie a little ribbon on there so I have a clue when I come back. But lots of other things. Oh, this is tule. I think you'll know what tule is, right? It's a big rush. I think some people call it bulrush. I don't know. This is the mat I haul around in my car. Sat on it at lunch. Comes in handy when you need to sit down somewhere. But they made tule mats. You can see really large ones. Those are cacti, I believe. But they would make great big ones that would cover their shelters that they slept on, smaller ones that they ate on, all sorts of uses for tule. But once you learn to weave, you can make anything. I was at the Salem Art Fair. It was hot, hot, hot. I had some cacti, so I made a fan while I was sitting there. But you can also use other materials that you'd find in your yard. This is honeysuckle. I think the big one with the handles down there is honeysuckle, like giant old-growth honeysuckle. This is lavender stems. You know, from your lavender? Yeah.
Lavender bottles?
Yeah, I have a friend who has a lavender farm, and they cut the heads off. And he had this huge, huge pile of sticks. He's like, holy crap, there has to be something, you know, I could do with those. Can you do something with them? And I said, well, we can try. So I brought them home and soaked them, and they actually worked quite well. So just use your imagination. This is a gourd, which has just been drilled in little triangle grass. It's down there with the little baubles on the end. That's a sweetgrass sedge. You could use bamboo, sure. You sure could. Yeah, it would make a great thing, especially for the base of your basket. And you could twine it with just about anything that you wanted to. Tony talked about the kindergarten kids that we have. We start them out with pipe cleaners. And these are some of the baskets that they do when we get started. So through experience again, I learned spray bottles, buckets of wet stuff. Not a good idea with a group of 5-year-olds. So we went dry, and pipe cleaners was the best thing that I could find. There's probably cedar bark. There's lots of different methods of using it. You can see these are strips, but this would be soaked and split first this way for thickness into thinner strips, and then split down again into the size of shape that I would need. But it also can be pounded, and this is just, I don't know if you want me to do this, but to pound it takes, I spent 6 hours pounding enough bark to make this skirt. So if you were making one for yourself, you talk about the long winter nights that we had here, this would be a good thing, but it might not be the most popular thing. It's kind of noisy. And if I do it on the table, it's going to be really loud. So, and this is, can I sit here? Okay. It's easier if I sit down. And this was made for me by one of the boys at the tribe, but it's a matter of, you can see why I wouldn't call